Okay, you guys here okay? This is a new room for me, so just kind of getting used to it. I think I like it. Lighting looks good, and audience is stunning. And then there's 3 screens, so hopefully there's not a bad view in the room. Okay, my name is Dr. Keller, and we're going to be hanging out in this room for the entire semester. This is Bio 320, otherwise known as pathology. So there's a convenient exit door out the back if you think you're in like some humanities class or some physics class, because we're in the physics building. But spaces is a premium on this campus, so this was the room that we had, and I'm glad to see they upgraded the seats. Some of them swivel, all of them swivel? Show me if you can swivel. Oh, a lot of you can swivel. So those of you that have the swivel seats obviously paid more, and you're in the cheap seats if they're stationary. So. Okay, so we're going to meet on Monday and Wednesdays from 2:20 to 3:35, and as you can see, I record the lectures. I have some other equipment coming that we're going to experiment with, but it hasn't arrived yet, so we're just kind of doing the ghetto desk in the front. Okay. Today we're going to walk through the syllabus. We're going to walk through the organization of the class. We will get into some real content, and then Wednesday we'll have a full lecture, and then that's going to be taxing, so we're going to take next Monday off. Okay? Everybody have access to the BB Learn shell? Did you see a picture that looks kind of like this on BB Learn? Did everybody get the announcement that was sent out last night? There were 2. Should have gotten 2 pushed to your phone, your device, or at least to your email account. If that's not happening, you probably want to figure out what's going on, because you're going to get a lot of, not a lot, but you'll get some information, especially in the beginning of the semester. We'll kind of coach you along a little bit so you don't miss some assignments. Like next Monday, for example, there's an assignment due, and there's no school. So maybe get the assignment due on Friday before you leave for the long weekend. Just a suggestion. We'll talk about it again on Wednesday. All right, we have a pretty packed room. There's a couple of spare seats, but yeah, it's nice. You're not like sitting on top of each other. It looks like you have enough of a writing surface. We're going to walk through the syllabus. We'll talk about the organization of the class, but let me introduce myself for a little bit. So I've been at the university since 2008, so it's now 12 years. I've been teaching this class for 10 plus years, and this is the first time I've been in this classroom, so this is a little different. But I really like this class. It's the only class I teach. I used to teach a lot more, and then in 2015 I set up a research lab on campus and started getting grant funding. And the way it works at the university, I've figured out, the more grant funding you get, the less you teach. That's kind of how they have it worked out. But I used to teach anatomy physiology. It's been years since I've taught that class, a couple of years, so I don't recognize any faces necessarily, although I recognize a few faces from other places on campus. I kept my smaller class. A&P was 407 in a lecture, and this one I think we're at like 110 or something, 115. So nice, small, intimate setting. That was a joke. I know I'm not very funny, but good news is my kids have helped me with that, so you'll see some of the humor that is a little bit more pre-programmed, but nonetheless you'll get the benefit from it. I have off-campus laboratories in town, a couple of companies in other locations in the state, and I'm a biomedical engineer, so I do a lot of biomedical research. A lot of it is to treat different types of diseases. How many of you are taking this class because you have to? It's an actual requirement to graduate. Okay, a few of you. What are you guys, what's your majors? It's a requirement for this class, or this was an elective to fulfill? I know it's elective, okay. Any of you have to have this to graduate. So if you're biomedical sciences, you actually have to have a 300 level class, and this meets a requirement, but it's not a required class necessarily. Does that make sense? So how many of you have to have this class to graduate? Okay, a few are, what are we, dental hygiene? Yeah. Dental hygiene, okay, all right. So I think still is the case that dental hygiene students are actually stuck with me, because you don't have any other options. Everybody else, technically, this is an elective. I appreciate that you think it's required, but you're here on your own free will. It may not seem that way, I get it. But, well, so same for me, okay? For the most part, I don't have to be here. Now, as a faculty member, there are some requirements and I should be educating, but education comes in different formats. So for the most part, except for maybe 6 of you that are stuck here, for dental hygiene students, all of us want to be here. And arguably, if you're dental hygiene and you want to graduate, which you chose, you're actually here because you want to be here. Can we all agree we're all here because we want to be here? Okay, nobody's here against their own free will, for the most part. Okay, there's 6 of you that kind of have to do a box check, but you've chosen that program of study. So, here's my commitment to you. I've elected to be here Monday and Wednesdays, and for the most part, there might be some unusual emergencies or circumstances, but I will be here, and I'll be prepared. And I expect the same of you. So we're going to look at each other as professionals. And so for this hour and 15 minutes, I would like your attention, because I'm going to give you my attention. I'm not going to, for the most part, be interrupted by texts or emails. I'll have my phone on vibrate. Typically, if my wife calls, then I'll probably send her a quick text to make sure one of our offspring's not bleeding profusely. Okay? So I'd ask that you do the same for the hour 15. If you have an emergency, I get it. There's an exit out the back. That goes some dark staircase, which is very scary, but I don't know where it ends, but we'll figure it out. 2 exits up here, but these are a little bit more obvious that you have an emergency. So if you need to take your call, go ahead and excuse yourself. But for the most part, I'm asking you guys to be present. It may not be distracting to you. I mean, you guys might be the best multitaskers in your generation. I get it. But it could be distracting to the person behind you. Okay? And then if you're sitting in the back row and there's nobody behind you, okay, it's a little disrespectful, I'll just be honest. If you're going to show up, I want you to be engaged, okay? It'd be as if I was having side conversations, doing something other than trying to educate all of you as a class. And it's not a simple task. We have 115 of you-ish, and so I'm trying to make sure that all of us are moving in the same direction as far as education is concerned, okay? Does that make sense? All right. We're going to go over the syllabus. I've said that like 3 times now, I think. But before we do that, let's solve some of these word puzzles, I think, maybe to get your brain going. Did everybody have a good holiday break? Hopefully that's unanimous yes. What are some fun things you guys did? Going home counts, if home's a fun place. What a dull group, huh? Or you're just tired? Is it hot in here?
I didn't really go anywhere, but my dog turned 3.
Aw, happy birthday.
Thanks.
Yeah, my dog turned 11 on the 11th of December. We called it his golden birthday. Did you guys know about that, the golden birthday? Yeah, my kids educated me. I missed mine. It was when I was 19, but I can't go back. Okay, we have a happy birthday. Something else? Yes? You shot a shotgun. That's going to be illegal soon, so congratulations. I'm pretty sure that will be illegal even to say that. Well, that sounds like it's exhilarating, isn't it? Yeah, it sure is. Yeah?
I visited San Luis Obispo.
Visited San Luis Obispo. Why? Are you going to a program there? Or?
No, just visiting some abroad friends who go to Cal Poly.
Oh, fun. That's a cool place. Anything else? South Korea? Wow. That's kind of exotic. Yeah. You have family there? Friends? You just spun the globe and pointed to South Korea? What cities were you in? Yeah, it's a big one. Bigger than Flag. It's kind of smoggy though, huh?
Yeah.
It was cold?
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else? We skied our brains out in my house. We like to ski. So, I will still be here. Because by 2:20, it's all tracked up there anyways. All right, somebody back here. Oh, nice. Where'd you go? Telluride. Yeah, fancy pants. Yeah, we were slumming. We went to Purgatory. That's where the poor people go. Telluride's really rich. Does your chair swivel? I'm just curious. Yeah, of course it does. All right. Anybody solve some of these? Just shout them out. Like number 1.
History repeats itself.
History repeats itself. Just shout them out.
Ring around the rosy.
Which one's Ring Around the Rosie? Number 2. Are we going in order? You guys are overachievers. Okay, number 3.
Repeat myself.
Repeat. What's that?
Repeat after.
Repeat after me. 4. Read between the lines. Yeah, no hand gestures. Okay. You're under arrest. Number 5. Square meal. Okay. 7. Someone's going to be on the exam. 8? Just kidding. 8? I don't know. 7. Alice in Wonderland. My kids gave me these. I don't know. You're answering all for me. I know everything else after this slide for the rest of the semester. Number 9?
Right after me.
Right after me. Number 10?
Frankenstein.
Frankenstein. Okay. Number 11?
Made in China.
Made in China. That's going to be illegal soon as well with our friend back here. These are all like off-color jokes. Sorry about that. Number 12. Settle down. Number 13. 1 in a million. That's a good one. Number 14. Yeah, I don't know. 4-wheel drive? Oh, is that drive?
Yeah.
I guess it is an I. Okay. Number 15. Lamb before time. Number 16. I'll be there in a minute. Yeah, okay. Number 17. Rail crossing. Number 18.
Microscope.
My favorite. I got that one. I got that one. Number 19.
Banana split.
Banana split. And number 20. So 7 and 20 we need to work on. You guys tell me what they are later on. I don't know. I'll ask my kids. They probably know. Okay. So, hour 15 minutes. But there's some things that we'll talk about. Everybody get the book? Or get a book? Okay. Nobody has a book? Everybody has a book? Who doesn't have a book? So chapter 1 is posted on BB Learn as a PDF. Okay? And so I don't want you to spend a lot of money on the book. And so I'm going to lecture out of the 8th and 9th edition, and I think it's like 10 and 11 that we have now. And I'll give you a hint. Pathology hasn't evolved much in like 4 editions. Okay? You can find the 8th and the 9th edition pretty inexpensively, and it'll work just fine. There's also a copy on reserve in the Klein Library, which you can check out, but you can only use it while you're there, and then you have to return it. You can't take it home. Okay? Anybody get the 8th and 9th edition pretty inexpensively and pretty proud of how frugal a shopper they are? Yes, sir. How much? Do you mind sharing? You do mind sharing or you don't mind? You don't know?
No.
You don't remember? Okay.
It was less than most.
Okay. Anybody else have a price they could share of how much they got their book for? 8th or 9th? I've heard it's like less than $50 for the 8th or 9th edition.
It's like $40.
$40. Okay. Here's what you're going to need the book for. Is you're going to need to read before you come to class. You're like, okay, let's hear it. Okay. You're going to have it available to take a pre-quiz before you come to class. Like, what? Yep. And you may in fact want it available when you take your post-quiz on Friday after class. What? So this is part of what's required for this class. We've got readings before you come to lecture. You've got a pre-quiz before you show up. Usually Mondays by noon the quiz is due, except for today. That would be cruel, I thought. In fact, we don't have anything due this week. No assignments this week. So usually the pre-quiz is due on Monday and the post-quiz is due on Friday. That's what will happen next week. Okay. They're open book, open notes. They're timed. They're on BB Learn. You don't need a special code. You don't have to buy anything extra. I just wrote all the quiz questions into BB Learn, and then it picks from a test bank for you. This is all to help you become familiar with the material. Right? It's called hybrid learning. In the olden days, we called it studying, but now we call it hybrid learning. Okay? So, if you decide you don't want to do that, it's going to be tough for you to do well in this class. Okay? If you decide you don't want to engage with material, the content, in other words, you don't want to study, it's going to be hard to earn the grade that you want to earn. So let me repeat that. It's going to be hard for you to earn the grade that you want to earn. I don't actually hand out any grades. I don't assign grades. I just record the grade that you've earned at the end of the semester. We'll talk about that. And I'm telling you on day one what you're going to need to be successful in this class. Okay, and I'll set up the point schedule for you. There's not going to be some funky curve that you don't know how to predict. It's going to be very predictable. Okay? So I'm telling you now, if that causes you indigestion, it may not be the elective for you. Are you with me? You're going to need to study or spend time with the material or engage in content, all these new vernacular that we have to use today. Some students find, so you need internet access. Now it's free, and it's gotten better on campus, okay? And last semester, the first day of class, the internet crashed in the fall. It doesn't seem like it's happened yet, so they got that worked out. There is a digital histology DVD in the bookstore. You don't need it, it's optional. But if you're interested in histology, and we'll talk about some histology in this class, there's more study material for you available. But it's optional. There's 3x5 note cards that you can buy in any office supply store on Amazon. Some students like note cards. Now, let me tell you something. If note cards don't help you, then don't use them. Don't use something that is worthless for you. I'm just telling you, there are lots of options available, but some students say, that doesn't do anything for me. I don't get anything out of these note cards. Some students swear by them. So I was always that one that was nervous because, the gal that sat next to me in most of my classes was like the Edward marker hands and had 17 different colors and the highlight was gorgeous. And I was like, if I wrote 5 words on my page, I was doing good, So if the highlighting or multiple colors doesn't work for you, then don't stress about it. If it does, then do it. Drawing out diagrams or putting things in outline format, that might be something that's helpful for you or maybe not. All right, here's our first or our second quiz question, right? The first one was the little word puzzle. So the Arizona Board of Regents has a publication that talks about how they expect students to put in time in the semester. And it's based upon the number of credits. So what's this magic formula? If you have a 3-credit class, which is what this is, what is the minimum number of hours per week you're going to need in order to do well? What do you think this magic formula is? Anybody? Go ahead, you guys can talk amongst yourselves. Three-credit class, how many hours per week? You think it's 9 total is the answer, or 9 goes in the blank? Or is the same answer? So you think the board thinks 3 times 3 equals 9. 9 hours per week. Okay? Would all of you, everybody think differently than the board? What do you think the number is?
I think it's 1 to 1, so 3 hours.
3 hours? Okay, we have 3, we have 9. Any takers for 6? 6 in the back? 6. Do I hear 7? 7 going once? 6 going once? Do I hear 7? 9 has it, sold for 9 right here. So the Arizona Board of Regents does think that 3 units, it's an hour per unit, so it would be 3 times 3 would be 9 hours per week. Now that would be spending time with the material. So that would be reading your text, that would be doing the pre-quiz, doing the post-quiz, and coming to lecture. A lecture itself is almost 3 hours, about 2.5 hours. Okay, we'll round up to 3. And so another 6 hours of reading and doing your pre-quizzes, and you should be doing pretty well in this class. How many of you think that that's excessive? I mean, I'm not going to remember faces. There's a giant light in my face. I can't even really see all of you except for you with the orange hat, and you with the green sweater, and you with the black shirt up front. Anybody think that's excessive? Yeah? Okay. So by this point in your career, right, as a professional student, because you guys are professional students, you have goals, you're going places. You guys know what you need in order to be successful. So if you think that 3 is the magic number for you per week, so it's 2.5 hours of lecture, and it's going to take you 15 minutes per quiz, which probably could be done. Might actually be more, they're 30-minute quizzes, so you might take the whole time. So maybe it's 3.5, right? Maybe you add in another half hour for reading the content before you show up, having the text and cruising through the chapter real quickly. So you're at maybe 4 hours. Almost 2.5 of them, or 2.5 of them are lecture. So you're at like an hour and a half outside of class. Okay, that's 4 hours instead of 9. Fine. But if you come to me after the first exam and you ask me, hey, I'm not getting the grade that I thought I would get, I'm going to ask you some questions about how much time are you studying. You see what I mean? And it's not a magic formula. They just give it as a guide. There are some students that need 12 hours a week in order to do well in this class. And they hate you guys that take only 3, right? They're like, I wish it came that easy to me. So there's going to be a spectrum, and there's no magic formula. But I want you guys to be honest with yourselves on how much time you're really spending with material. Now, one thing that's unusual about this class is we have an SI. That's Richard sitting over here. And I'm going to introduce Richard here in a minute when we talk a little bit more about this class. But we're one of the few, we may be the only, I don't know if we're still the only, but we're one of the few 300 level classes that has an SI. And so going to SI is another resource that would count towards that study time. And we're about here shortly going to be talking about some time frames. And I'll put up the screen when we do that so you can see the notation. We'll have to remember that for next time. We need to write something as we got to use the margins. Okay. So the traditional class format that we have is you just show up, kind of like today. Okay, you're not really prepared. Don't even really know what we're talking about. And this is the first time you experience the material is me sharing with you, which is actually considered passive learning, right? No matter how many in-class activities we do, this is considered a passive environment, okay? Then you walk out of here and you're just confused. You're like, I don't really understand what we were talking about. Like that whole mechanism of inflammation, just above my head, okay? And then you show up for the exam and it translates to poor performance. So a long time ago, before it was cool to be hybrid, before it was cool to be blended, before it was cool to be, anything other than just studying, I decided to change this class up, and we did a lot of the front-end work, encouraging the students, assigning points, to a preparation time before you show up here. So you have a clue of what we're going to talk about. Then we get more active engagement, we get better questions. Are there any bad questions or stupid questions? No. But there are questions that are better than other ones. Okay? And so if you're going to ask questions and engage the rest of the class, and we're all going to be on really the same level, then all of us need to be doing the effort together. You're going to come to class with maybe some questions. Like, I understand the reading. I understand that topic. And then hopefully, I'll narrow stuff down and clarify. That's the whole point. So you have a baseline of understanding before you show up. Then when we get the lecture in front of you, you walk away with more retained. And then out of class, either in your study groups, in your SI sessions, is where that fits in here on these SI sessions, and study time and post quizzes, you actually are reinforcing what you know about the content. We have a better performance. It's not really a crazy concept, but we've been doing it for a few years, a long time, about 8 years of this, and it's gone really, really well. Students tend to do pretty well in this class. What does that mean? Well, we have preferentially A, B's, and C's in this class. And we have mostly B's. Instead of a bell curve being such where C is the middle, right, or the median, right? So a bell curve kind of looks like this, and your C's would be here, and your B's would be here, and your A's would be here. Our curve in this class kind of looks like this, and C, B, and A's. And really the reason for that is because of all of you and all of your predecessors. By this point in time, there's like 4 or 5 prerequisites to even qualify to register for this class. So you're going to take this class just to try out biology. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I like it or not, but I'll try this pathology class. Like, nobody really does that. You're going here because you're after some goal, and so that pushes this echelon that way. I would be totally fine, and this is being recorded, so I would be totally fine if the curve ended up looking like this, right? 90% of the class got A's, and that's actually possible based upon our grading scale that you're going to see here in a second. So, format for this semester, a lot of self-study, pre and post quizzes. We're going to have a traditional in-class lecture. So what this isn't going to look like is this is not going to, I'm going to be careful on how I say this. This is not going to look like me putting on you to lecture. That's not this class. It'll be a classic, traditional, didactic lecture twice a week. We'll all have lecture slides. You actually have all the slides already in BB Learn. And I'm going to walk through the slides and explain the content and give a traditional didactic lecture. This isn't going to be like, okay, group Hufflepuff, come on up here, and group Gryffindor, talk about this, and right, Slytherin, you guys stop talking and messing around. We're going to actually do like a real lecture, okay? And you'll have interaction in and out of class. And I want to encourage you guys for this group collaboration and SI session. And I know that you're super busy people, I get that. But if you want to be successful, depending upon which curve you want for you, you're going to need to make some of those decisions here in the beginning of the semester. Okay, so I want you to turn to the neighbor next to you or behind you, partner up, introduce yourself, and explain, take turns explain. Don't explain at the same time because then it's really loud. Take turns explaining what this proverb means to you. Ready, go. Okay, let's hear from some of you. Starting to die down. Let's hear from some of you some interpretations on this old proverb, Chinese proverb. Oh, what were you talking about for crying out loud?
So what my friend Z was saying, that it's better to just be taught yourself, but you can use your more self-reliant on yourself.
Okay, self-reliance. I like that. Anything else slightly different or majorly different or agreement?
We're gonna say it's like reward versus skill set. So you can give someone the reward, or you can teach them to have the skill sets so they can get the reward.
Okay, reward versus skill set. So are you just handing it to them as a reward, or are they learning how to do it on their own and have a skill set where they could do it again tomorrow? Right?
Basically, if someone asks you a question and you just give them the answer, it will help them in that one moment, but it's not going to be applicable to the rest of their life. If you teach them the actual mindset and everything else what goes to that problem, they'll be able to use it in future situations.
That's pretty good as well. So if you just give them the answer versus them kind of figuring out how to get to the answer on their own, that's going to be more long-lasting, the second of the two. My friend?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, what's the difference of teaching someone to be dependent and teaching someone to be independent?
Teaching someone to be dependent versus independent. These are all really good answers. Are there others? I take back the moment of silence. I'm glad you collected your thoughts. That's probably most of the chatter that I've heard in a decade or so. That's pretty good. All that from just one little statement. Were many of those all that different? Not really. But they all had a different perspective on how they were coming at it, right? So this is what's going to happen in SI. This is what's going to happen when you get together and study together. This is going to happen when you hang out with Richard instead of me. And so the reason I say that is all of us have our own life experiences and different ways of viewing things. And one may not be more right than the other. Okay? And so if I share with you a theology or an idea or a philosophy or a concept, and it doesn't resonate, one of your colleagues in SI session or Richard may share it with you in a slightly different way, and it clicks. And you're like, wow, I wish Keller would have just said it that way. How many of you have experienced that in college? You're like, well, I really wish the professor just would have said it like you just said it. What an idiot. Why does he have that job? Why does she have that job? Why don't you have it? It's just a different perspective that resonates with you. Does that make sense? So we just walked through a simple Chinese proverb, which is the last Chinese proverb we're going to talk about. But it's just to prove the point that it may not be that I'm horrible at what I do, if you're not getting it. It may be that it's the same concept, but through Richard's experience, it makes more sense. Or through your colleague's experience sitting right next to you. And that's going to happen in SI session. And if you're studying all by yourself and you don't take advantage of the other things, you're not going to have the ability to see different perspectives on the exact same material. Make sense? Okay. Let me introduce Richard at this point. So Richard is an SI for us. I got a few notes here that I want to kind of just make sure I don't mess up. His contact information is on the syllabus. We'll get to the syllabus here in a second. And Richard is quite experienced in a lot of different aspects. He was a business owner. He was a dancer, or still is a dancer. He is an exercise science major here at Northern Arizona University. He owned a business that was a fitness business in Pilates. And worked for that business before he bought the business. And then relevant to what you guys are doing is he's actually taken this class in the very recent past from me at this institution, and he did extremely well on this edge of the curve. Okay? So, years ago, in a feedback from students at the end of the semester, you know those forms that you're like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid. Right? I click these circle boxes, whatever. No one reads this stuff. I read them all. And years ago, your predecessor said this class would be so much easier if if we had an SI. And so I submitted for an SI, and I didn't get it. And the next semester, your predecessors asked for an SI again. So I submitted for an SI, and I didn't get it. And then the next semester, I took those 2 semesters worth of data, plus the next semester, and said, they're asking for an SI. And the concept of SI is to encourage students in classes that have high DF and W rates, that means you get a D and F or a withdrawal, to have additional resources available to them to lower those poor performances. So why wouldn't we reward students that are high achievers to encourage them to get better grades, even if the DFW rate isn't an issue? Because it never has been. They said, and they're asking for it. The students are asking, not just me saying, I want it, the students are asking. So they granted it, and we have had it ever since. Okay, and it's one of the few classes, but it's because of your feedback that we have SI resources. Richard is CPR, AED, and first aid certified, and he's made the dean list numerous times. Very approachable, has a firm understanding of this content, and understands kind of how this class operates and the mechanics and the idiosyncrasies. Like, half of a class, as you guys know, to be successful isn't just knowing the material. It's saying, what do you think he's going to ask? What do you think is important? What kind of questions, what's the style? And so you've got a resource with your SI where he's very familiar with my style on test questions. Does that make sense? So it would be an advantage for you to take advantage of time with Richard. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to Richard. Join me welcoming Richard. Okay. Everyone likes to clap for it, so that's good.
Can you hear me okay in the back? Okay, so I'm Richard. I'm going to be your pathology SI. Just to...
Check. Here they go.
Can you hear me okay?
It's just fun to have a mic.
Right. That's why I was a singer for so long.
Oh, okay. You don't need to
Okay, so I have notes because this is my first semester SIing. Who's never been to an SI session before? Awesome, I've never taught an SI session before, so we're in the same boat. Come to the session, it'll be awesome. It'll be a learning experience. Second question, who here has had a disease before? I expected a lot more hands for that one. That would be a practical thing for pathology. You'd have a leg up if you had a disease. So, a quick explanation of SI for you. I am not an instructor. Dr. Keller is your instructor. He holds your lectures. He's going to be giving you the information, giving you the slides. SI, what we're doing is we're trying to facilitate a place for you to be able to digest the information, to be able to break it down, say, oh, hey, that doesn't make so much sense. Maybe Barrett esophagus is a hard thing for you to think about. Don't worry, you'll be learning that soon. So in the SI sessions, we're going to be talking about the material that went over happened in class, and we're going to also talk about your learning style, what works for you. If you're a flashcard person, awesome, I'm not. If you're a colored pencil person, awesome, I'm not. I read the book, and that's about it, and that's very helpful in this class. If you're looking for an A in this class, I highly suggest SI. The only reason I got my A in this class last semester was because I attended sessions. I was kind of close to the not A position. Statistics for SI, if you do come to just about 1 to 3 sessions, you'll probably get about a half letter grade better than people who do not come to the SI session. If you can come about once a week, maybe 10 sessions throughout the semester, you are more likely to get a full letter grade better. It is helpful. Do come. It is a lot of fun. I have really horrible humor. I tell dad jokes all the time. All the time. Okay.
Can I pause? Did you guys hear those statistics? If you come once a week, you're more likely to get a full letter grade higher than you would have if you didn't. Okay, so there's a lot of data now because of the years we've been doing SI to support the value of it. Does it mean you're going to have to maybe adjust your schedule? Yeah. Will you have to make some sacrifices potentially? But if you chose to be here, it's important to you. So we're just giving you all of the options available to you to be successful.
Thank you. Okay, speaking of times, I've got a couple times up here that I'm available to hold session. I need to do a quick poll to see how many of you can come to these times. So if you got my email through Dr. Keller last night and you have your schedules, pop them out, think about what times work for you. Okay, starting off.
Everybody ready? Hang on, everybody ready with their calendars? Need a few more seconds? You guys are lightning fast. Don't answer those texts, just go to the calendar. Okay.
Bad dad joke, two guys walk into a bar, third one ducks. Now wait about 30 more seconds, someone else will figure it out. Okay, so, polling times.
I think a couple just got it.
Yeah, it takes about 45 seconds, it's a nice curve. Polling times, Mondays. Who would come to SI sessions at 10 o'clock on a Monday?
How long are the sessions?
1 hour, and they are open sessions, so if you're a little bit late coming in, I'm not insulted by that, that's totally fine. If you need to leave early, also okay. I had back-to-back SI sessions last semester, so coming in and out is totally fine. So one more
Monday
time.
at 10, one more time, Monday at
10.
10. We gotta get a number here.
About half, 50%, okay, thank you. Okay, who could do Monday at 11? A little bit more, 75.
Yeah, a few more.
I would highly recommend this time because your pre-quiz is due after this, just in case you're confused or have questions before taking the quiz. Okay, Monday is 4 o'clock.
Basically after class. Maybe 25-ish, 30, something like that. Less, but.
Okay, Monday's 5 o'clock. Give yourself a lunch break.
About the same, 30.
Okay, we are on to Tuesdays. Tuesday's 11 o'clock.
Not as popular.
Not
Oh
as
wait, up, keep them up, keep them up. Not as popular, I'd say a little less than the 5 slot.
Okay, we'll go 25. Tuesdays, 4 o'clock, early afternoon. 30-ish%?
Yeah.
Okay. On to Wednesdays, 2 o'clock. We have busy Wednesdays, thank you for that.
Don't we have
Yeah.
this class? We have class.
Oh, we have class.
It's
Yeah,
Wednesday.
we're all available at 2.
We're all available. Sorry, what time is this class end?
3:35. So we can't do Wednesdays. 4.
4 o'clock.
Oh, look at that.
Okay,
More
much
takers.
better. I did not think about that.
Yeah.
75. I'm gonna have to double check that one. Okay, Thursdays, 11 o'clock.
Not as popular. Like 25-ish.
Okay, Thursdays, noon.
Definitely less, like 12.
12%. Thursdays, 1 o'clock.
About the same, maybe 15 or 20.
Okay, Thursdays, 2 o'clock. My backup ran up.
Yeah.
Okay, before I get to Friday, anyone for Friday? Okay, that's enough people. Friday is 2 o'clock. About half?
35-ish or something.
Friday's 3 o'clock.
Fewer.
Friday's 4 o'clock.
Diehards. Fewer diehards.
Don't worry about Fridays. Okay. So I will get these times into my supervisor. 4 of these times will wind up being the SI sessions for the semester. For a couple of the sessions during the semester, if we have a test week, I might bump the sessions earlier so that we have a couple more before you hit the test. Because normally right after a test, nobody shows up. I like wasting my time. Okay. I think that's pretty much everything for me. Any questions for me? Awesome.
Cool.
If you have any questions, you can find me before or after class. I'm always hanging out for you guys. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Okay. take a second for this to come back on, but while we're waiting, so let me talk about the syllabus now. Everybody should have access to BB Learn. The syllabus is posted in BB Learn as a PDF. And I'm going to show it to you here in a second when this pops up. I'm also going to show you where to find the pre and post quizzes and where to find the lecture slides. Okay? In fact, today's lecture is already posted. Anybody find today's lecture? A couple of you. Okay. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'm going to walk through it real quick. Okay, so this is the syllabus. Contact information is here on the screen. The best way to reach me is actually going to be email, and that's going to be through this email on the top of the syllabus. So that's robert.keller, and Keller is AR@nau.edu. Please don't message me in BB Learn. I don't really check that ever. Okay. If you call the office, I'm in my office maybe a day and a half a week. Okay, that's it. I mean, and not even full days. Like a day and a half, I'm around campus, in and out of the office type of thing. But the 2 days that I'm on campus are Monday and Wednesdays, and most of my time I'm in with you. Okay, so email is going to be the best way to reach me. I'm going to exit this, and we're going to pull up the actual syllabus. So this is the PDF. You can see that there's the basic pathology text by Robbins. Okay, so hopefully you can find that. I have posted chapter 1 as a PDF. You're allowed to do that legally. About 10% of content can be posted for educational purposes without violating copyright, so that's already in the BB Learn shell. And the reason that chapter 1 is important is because it gets you through next week. So you basically have like 2 weeks using chapter 1. Okay? There's some optional content. AV lectures, all of the lectures will be uploaded, and it's nothing fancy. It's an iPad with a stack of cards propped up so it's at the right angle, and you're not staring at my nose, okay? The audio is quiet. I'm experimenting with mics to make this a little bit louder, but the point of the video is also feedback that came from your predecessors. They wanted me to record the audio, so I started recording it. And then people say, well, could you record it in video, because then we can see your audio and what slide it corresponds to. It's really helpful. And once I just played around with the iPad, it was so easy. And so they're just on YouTube, and I'll show you where to find them. So if you click on the syllabus on that link, it'll take you to this YouTube page, and you can see these are F19 is fall of 19. So these are all the lectures from last semester through the end of the semester. Okay, and I'll update these as we go, and you'll see S20 for spring of 20. Okay? How you can use this content is if there's something in your notes that is unclear and you didn't really capture it, maybe you want to go back and rewatch the lecture. Okay? If you have an institutional excuse, or there's a date where you know you're going to miss, you don't have to necessarily completely miss the lecture and have a friend take notes. Okay? I'm going to tell you something that I've observed over the years. Here's the danger of recording all of your lectures, and you can see that we don't skip any. There is the propensity for students not to come to lecture. Well, that's your choice, and I can't control that. But the students that come to lecture and engage with the content live tend to do far better than those that just take it online. And we're seeing that across the board with online education, is it doesn't replace the in-person learning experience. So it's totally up to you, but those options are available to you. It's to be a resource for you, and it may work out really well, and it may save your butt 1 week where you just can't move something, and you got to be out of town, or you have a family emergency and you got to go somewhere. I totally get it, okay? But it also has the potential for the opposite, which is, you can take advantage of it and then it actually hurts you in the long run, and you don't do as well on the exams. But that's a resource that's there, ready to go. Here's the class. 520 points. 2 exams, 1 final. All the exams are cumulative. There's 12 online pre-quizzes and 12 online post-quizzes, and I'll drop the lowest of each. So everyone has a bad week, I get that. Everybody forgets, I get that. So you have one freebie, not two, you have one freebie on pre, one freebie on post. Not two pre-quizzes and no posts, or two pre-quizzes and two posts, or two posts and no pre's. It's one of each. Does that make sense? This is basically our contract. So you can calculate out of 520, because there's 12 of each, but there's only 110 for each category because I'm dropping the lowest. 520 times 0.895 is what you need to earn an A. 520 times 8949 is what grade? A B. So at the end of the semester, if you end up with an 89.49%, what have you earned? A B. If you end up with an 89.5%, what have you earned? An A. It's quite straightforward. Okay? Make sense? Straight math. No funny curve. It'll be this today. It'll be this the end of the semester. And I know some of you are going to ask again at the end of the semester. It'll be the same answer. Okay? It might sound harsh, and that's totally your opinion, and that's okay. I respect that. But in my opinion, it's the fairest way to do it, is to say, here's what I expect of you on day one, and I'm not going to change it. And you can calculate throughout the entire semester where you are, and you can figure out, okay, this week, I really need to put in some time, because I gotta like ace both these quizzes. I gotta get 10 out of 10 on both these quizzes. And here's the other fair thing. If you have a bad week, like I thought I was gonna do better on that quiz, and I didn't, that's your freebie. Okay? You guys with me? Any questions about the grading scale? All right. I'm not gonna take attendance. Obviously, I know if you're not here, especially the ones that engage, but this is totally on you. You guys are professionals. You know what you need to be successful. But in my experience over the years of doing this, if you don't come to the lecture, you're gonna miss out. Even though it's recorded, and it's not edited. I don't edit anything. It's not like, ooh, I gave away some really valuable information there. I'm only gonna let the people that were in class and edit. No, if I mess something up, you see the mess ups. If it's a horrible joke, you see the horrible joke. Okay? So it's there for you as a resource. You can choose to use it how you like. Let's talk about some trick questions or fairness. So we always kind of get these questions from students on, well, what happens if it's an unfair question or a trick question? It's open for opinion. So just like our proverbial exercise, we all have sort of slightly different perspectives and points of view. How many of you, so we already know the dental hygiene folks, how many of you are pre-med and want to go to medical school? Raise them high. Future physicians. Okay, fantastic. How many of you are future nurses? Everything goes well. PAs. Okay, physical therapists. Okay. Where's the dental hygiene again? Dental hygiene. Okay. Graduate school, like researchers. Couple. Okay. Who did I miss? I don't want to leave anybody out. Dentistry. Dentists, like dental school. Okay. One dentist. We're going to have 4 bad teeth. Oh, we have the dental hygienists. They're going to take care of us. Keep us away from you. Okay, so physicians. Let's use the physicians as examples. Raise your hand. Okay. Right here in the maroon. What's your name? Dana. Dana, okay. And nurse? All our nurses? Dana in the back in the orange. What's your name? Amelia and Dana. Take a look at each other. You guys are on the same floor, in the same hospital, taking care of the same patient. Okay? Different shifts. Go ahead and look at each other. Do you, Amelia and Dana, think that you're always going to agree on how to treat that patient? You guys know that by just looking at each other? Wow, you guys are good. Oh, okay. All right, so you're not going to agree. So how are you going to approach, at the change of shift, each other about what they did on the last shift that you didn't agree with? How's that going to look? Either one of you, explain to me. How are you going to do that? Even though it's a difference of opinion, how are you going to share your difference of opinion with each other as professional nurses? Calmly, okay? With respect and with evidence. I like that. Anything else from the audience?
Doctor is gonna have more knowledge and experience, so I feel like they would be.
Doctor's not in this one though right now. Just these two. Last semester I used doctors as examples. So I'm just trying to, I agree with you, the doctor might intervene here and kind of decide who he or she agrees with, right? But for the point of this exercise, we're going to kind of ignore the physician for the moment. With respect, with evidence, calmly.
Bring in other colleagues.
Bring in other colleagues, okay. What if you can't bring in other colleagues? Just the two of you have to resolve it. Are you going to berate the other person? That's not respectful. Are you going to stomp your feet? Are you going to throw a fit?
Compromise?
Maybe reach a compromise, okay? All right, so how are you going to get good at that as future dental hygienists, right? You're going to make a recommendation to the dentist and you don't agree with the other dental hygienist. You're a nurse, you're going to make a recommendation to the physician, but you've never practiced this. You're two physicians, you're two surgeons, you're two neurosurgeons, and you don't agree. How are you going to do this? I'm convinced neurosurgeons don't have a lot of practice with this, okay? You're going to have to come to me and challenge a question in a professional, calm, respectful way with evidence. Okay? We might reach a compromise. Okay? We may bring in other experts, maybe peer review literature, okay? Just kind of evidence. Probably not going to grab other classmates or other professors, but we would bring in other colleagues to try to maybe intervene here in a way of, well, let's figure out, show me why you think the question was a bad question, and let's go through the answers and figure out what's right and what's wrong. What it's not going to look like is disrespectful. We're not going to walk in here the day after the exam and 115 of you are up in arms about question number 12. Okay? I do want this to happen. I want you guys to challenge questions, and I fully anticipate that there will be challenges. Because I want you guys to get the practice of how do I challenge the professor, a professional, but in a way where it's respectful and it's evidence-based and it's done in a calm fashion. And I think that's a skill set you're going to take on for the rest of your career. You guys with me? Okay. All right, let's look at the rest of the syllabus here. So academic dishonesty, we're required to talk about these at this stage. I think you guys understand them all. They're clearly spelled out here. The university takes this extremely seriously. The department takes this extremely seriously. And let me just say, at this point, the way you behave while nobody's watching is a reflection of your true character. Okay? So if you're going to go on and be physicians and nurses and physical therapists and researchers and professionals in the dental field, then you need to be operating professionally today. You guys with me? Out of respect for yourself. So please think about that as you move forward in the semester. All right, let's look at the schedule. This is subject to change, but I don't foresee much changing. Okay? I actually have a conference that I'm away for, so I built that into the schedule. We won't have class that week. Okay, like you heard Richard explain, I'm the professor. I'm not going to, routinely throw somebody else in the classroom because I'm not available. I'm planning around my schedule. Like I said, when I need to be here, I'm going to do everything I can to be here. The times that I already have conflict, I've already scheduled that. So you can see on the schedule, we've got cell injury and death on Wednesday. We don't have any assignments. No school on Monday, but you do have a pre-quiz due Monday, so we'll talk about this on Wednesday. But my suggestion is do the pre-quiz Friday before you leave for the long weekend. These chapters and page numbers are from the 8th edition. In your BB Learn shell, if you go to the announcements, there's some old announcements you can scroll through. There's actually a sheet that tells you, if you have the 9th edition, what's the corresponding page number. Okay. If you have the 10th or 11th edition, We haven't yet updated those. We'll probably try to do that this semester. Okay. You can see there's no class on President's Day. The university is open this day, but I'm going to be out of town. Okay? And so we're not going to have class. We're going to have an exam on Wednesday. And because my office hours are Mondays, I'll probably offer office hours on Tuesdays that week so that we have office hours before the exam. Does that make sense? Okay. Then there's no other assignments other than the exam that week. Here's Unit 2. You can see the schedule here. Here's spring break, no class, no assignments. You have your pre and your post quiz. This week, there's actually 2 pre and 2 post quizzes. So keep note of that, nervous system. And then you've got exam 2 is 2 weeks after spring break, not the week after spring break. It's 2 weeks after spring break on the 12th. Okay. I actually need to move this dotted line here. Sorry. So I'll make that adjustment. And then this is the week that I'm out of town. And then we finish up the semester, and this is the final exam schedule according to the NAU published final exam. I want you to make note of that because I want to make note of the schedule because I'm scheduling my semester around this. I leave the country the following week. So I know you guys are going to have travel plans. You're going to finish up the semester. Me too. So please stay till the 5th. Okay? If you want to leave after 5 o'clock, great. Okay? But it's in this class. It's a 2-hour block, and it's according to the final exam schedule, so there aren't any potential conflicts with other classes. Okay? So please don't ask to take it at a different time. Just plan on taking it on this particular day as scheduled. You guys with me? All right, let's look at BB Learn Shell, which is here. If you go here to course content, here's where the announcements are on this first page right here. You can see these 2 announcements. This is the announcement that I sent out that said, here's that conversion sheet of 8th and 9th edition. And then this is the announcement that I sent out last night of our first lecture. And then this is the one I sent out for Richard right here. It's talking about be prepared to do the exercise we just did on your schedules. So that's where you're going to see announcements. They should be pushing to your phone. There are some older announcements I've kept because they were interesting for future semesters to kind of pay attention to. If you click on this course content tab, you're going to come here to the syllabus tab, which is the syllabus PDF that we just looked at. And then the next most important thing is going to be weekly tasks, lectures, pre's, and post quizzes. So if you click this, it's organized according to the syllabus calendar by week. So if you click on week 1, you'll see that this is our introduction lecture right here. And just for good measure, in case we worked ahead, I put the cell injury and death. If you go to week 2, it says Monday's Martin Luther King Day, Wednesday cell injury and death. So we'll go pre-quiz due 1:20 by noon, post-quiz due 1:24 by 11:59 p.m. And then here's cell injury and death. So each folder, week 3, has all the relevant stuff you need for that particular week. Does that make sense? Pretty straightforward? So you can see if you go back to this page, you can scroll through. Even exam 1 is on week 6. And then you can see that this has a warning. You've got 2 pre and 2 post quizzes. And then here's exam 2 on week 12. And then here's week 17 technically is our final. Follow? Cool. Any questions over the syllabus, BB Learn, YouTube, any of that information? All right.
Dr. Kelly,
Yes.
when do you post your YouTube lecture?
Usually within a day of having class. Yeah.
I was going to ask if you're able to keep like the questions available from post quizzes for us to study.
Yeah, so the pre and post quizzes, once they close, the deadline is over, you go back and look at them. Yep. But I won't necessarily take questions off the pre and post quiz and put them on the exam. Concepts might be there, but not necessarily taking straight information.
Are you gonna have like a study guide that you post for exams or anything like that, or like a concept overview some professors do that?
I'll be building material for the class, so if you're coming to the SI sessions, yeah, you'll see study guides for the exams, stuff like that.
Okay. We're going to get started here in the next few minutes just on a little bit of content. But first, I want to give you a flavor. So, my sense of humor is very plain. So my kids decided years ago that they were going to help me with it, and they crafted jokes. And so I have a stack of jokes, and I'll go through a couple each before lecture. Okay, you guys ready? I mean, these are good. Some of these are old, like when the kids were really young. What type of dinosaur does things really quickly? What? A velociraptor? Yeah, you think a 5-year-old knows what that is? That's a good answer. Brontosaurus. Okay. What was the knight shouting for a can opener? Why was the knight shouting for a can opener? Why was the knight shouting for a can opener? He had a bee in his suit. Okay. You gotta think about little kids writing these for dad. What kind of fruit has the most electricity in it? What kind of fruit has the most electricity in it? A watermelon. Very good. Look at that. You're catching on. Okay. So, form study groups, right? My kids just think that this little character is super cute. So that's our plea to get together in study groups. All right, I want you guys to turn to each other. One of you identify and define pathology, and the other one identify and define epidemiology. Okay? Yeah. All right, pathology. Let's hear some ideas on pathology. What is pathology? Study of disease. It's a safe answer. It's good. It's correct. Pretty straightforward, yeah?
Study of suffering.
It is literally translates to the study of suffering. Very well done. So both of you would be correct. Okay? How about epidemiology? Yes, sir. The study of how diseases spread over time. Very good. Study of diseases or illnesses in populations. So we might look at, say, like a malaria outbreak and how it moves from one area to another. We might look at the flu. Okay, we might look at other types of interesting diseases like hantavirus. Okay. Yeah, very good. Okay, what I want you to do now is I want you to jot down 5 diseases that are on your mind. Just jot them down. the difference between a disease and a disorder. So a disease is typically like an illness or a condition that affects a specific system. Well, a disorder could be like a learning disorder, or so it's not necessarily a particular system. I mean, one might say the nervous system, but is it sympathetic, parasympathetic, central, peripheral, right? Yeah. As you're writing these down, let's hear some of them. Let's shout them out. Malaria. Okay. We're not going to cover that one this semester, but it's an interesting disease. What's that? Kawasaki. Yeah, another interesting one. We're not going to get to that one either, but neuropathy. We'll cover neuropathy.
Chikungunya.
What's that?
Chikungunya.
Chikungunya. We won't cover that one. Cancer. We will touch on that. Toxic plasmosis. We won't cover that one. But you guys are sophisticated. Crohn's. We'll touch on Crohn's. The others? Diabetes? Huh? Thyroid disorders or thyroid diseases. Yes, we'll cover those. Lyme's disease. We won't cover that one, but it's a fascinating disease. What's that? Swine flu. Okay, you guys are complicated, right? So the point is, if you look at the syllabus, we're going to go through respiratory diseases. We'll cover things like ARDS. We'll cover cardiovascular diseases. We'll cover cancer. We'll go through renal disorders and diseases. We'll go through kidney, liver. This is general pathology, so we're not going to cover every single system. This is to introduce you guys to the field of pathology and get you interested and excited about it, okay? And when we start up on Wednesday, we're going to launch right into our first one that Richard mentioned, which is Barrett's esophagus. That's the back end of these slides. I'd like you to look at them. Look at Barrett's esophagus, okay? It comes from gastroesophageal reflux disease. Okay, when people have this regurgitation that happens, they develop an esophagus known as Barrett's esophagus, and it's the precursor to forming throat cancer or esophageal cancer. Okay, so we're going to talk about kind of the 4 aspects of pathology on Wednesday, and we'll introduce Barrett, and we're going to go right into cell injury and death. And the last thing I'm going to tell you, and then we'll let you go, is I'm only going to test you on the exam on the stuff we cover in lecture. And I'll go at a pace that's comfortable. And if we don't get as far as we need to go that day, we'll pick up there the next lecture period, okay? I'll see you all on Wednesday.